think we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a really packed agenda today. So my name is Jenny Van Wyk. I'm from the University of Oregon Health Professions Program, and I am your moderator for today. For this session, we are going to be talking about, thank you, Marie. We are going to be talking about the public health case studies. We have two public health programs with us today. I would like to introduce Amanda Armington. She is the Administrative Director for the Masters of Public Health program in the College of Public Health and Human Services at Oregon State University. And then we also have Dr. April Sanders, Accreditation and Education Programs Manager in the Division of Public Health and Occupational and Environmental Health at the University of Utah. And she's joined by an academic advisor, Elizabeth Johnson, and they'll be going second. So we are going to get started with Amanda.
Great. I am going to share my screen. Bear with me for just a moment.
And as she shares her screen, if there are things that we need to know in the chat, she will be asking for participation in the chat, but the chat hopefully will be busy once we start getting started on the case studies. And that's where you can post your questions. But otherwise, you know, per usual, everybody will stay muted. So thanks, everybody. Amanda, it's all yours.
Great, thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Amanda Armington, and I am the MPH Administrative Director here at the College of Public Health and Human Sciences at Oregon State University. And I'm thrilled to be presenting to you today. I'd like to start by just briefly talking about our graduate programs in the college. I work exclusively with the MPH program, but we do have a number of doctoral programs in public health and some other disciplines, and we have a bunch of other master's programs as well. So we have public health, we have kinesiology, nutrition, and human development and family studies within our college. And within the MPH program, we have 8 distinct options. 7 of those are here on our Corvallis campus, and 1 is entirely online, and that's our option in public health practice, which is more of a generalist degree. A little bit more about the MPH. It is 60 quarter credits, which is 2 years if the student goes through on a full-time basis. We're on a quarter system here, so 3 terms during the academic year plus summer. We have very small cohort sizes within our MPH program, which really allows students to make deep connections with their peers and also with faculty members. So it's very common for students to be working with faculty on research projects or other sorts of projects. Students can also customize their programs. So we have electives built in to all of our MPH options, and that allows them to take classes outside of public health, even outside of our college, as long as they're at the graduate level and they're approved by their advisor. Public health is a very diverse field, and we recognize that. So a lot of our students will take some classes in rural studies, applied anthropology, things like that. We have a dedicated student support team, so that includes me. We also have a full-time MPH internship coordinator. So we're a non-thesis degree, and our students do a 200 working hour or 6 credit internship. And so they're supported from the moment they start considering what they might want to do for their internship all the way through to the completion of their internship. Our students are able to go through the program on a full-time or part-time basis. And as I mentioned, we do have 1 fully online option that's in public health practice. And that program was really created with working professionals in mind. We do have some students go through full-time and they're not working, but the majority are working professionals who come back to the field, non-traditional students, and oftentimes complete the program in 3, 4, or 5 years. So why Oregon State University? You have the exceptional reputation and all the resources of a really large university. We are the #1 research university in Oregon. eCampus is our platform for our online programs. It's currently #4 in the nation. It's always top 10. And we're really student focused within our program and in our college. We're very collaborative. So we recognize that students oftentimes want to work across disciplines, and we allow that both in coursework and outside of the classroom as well. And we're also, Corvallis is a very friendly, beautiful place to live. It's very bikeable, walkable. It's just a great place to go get your graduate degree. And as I mentioned, we have very small class sizes where you can really get to know your cohort, really get to know your faculty members, but at the same time, you have all the resources and opportunities of a very large institution. I also want to point out this year, we joined the Western Regional Graduate Program. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's a program that allows students from 15 Western states and territories to have a discounted tuition rate. It's a considerable savings, so students save between $12,000 and $13,000 in tuition over the course of the MPH program. Okay, on to the case studies. So case study number 1. This is an applicant to our MPH and epidemiology program. And they have a 2.95 cumulative GPA, and they have a 3.5 GPA in their last 90 credit hours, so their upper division coursework. They'll be graduating with a BS in environmental sciences. They did earn all A's and B's in their math and stats coursework. Their statement of purpose describes an interest in epidemiology, talks about one of our epi faculty in particular about their research. So they've done some background work on our program. And in their statement of purpose, they talk about some financial issues, some personal stressors that led to those lower grades in their first and second year of their bachelor degree. They have 3 recommenders. One is a faculty member, one is a graduate teaching assistantship who taught the applicant directly, and one is a supervisor at the applicant's campus job. All of the recommenders describe the applicant's persistence when faced with adversity, enthusiasm for learning, and interest in becoming an epidemiologist. So I can't see the chat. I thought I was going to be able to. Let me see if I can pull that up. Okay, now I can see it. I would like to know what you all think. Was this applicant admitted? If you could put yes or no in the chat, and we'll just get a sense of what you all are leaning towards. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. 1 no, lots of yeses, couple no's. Okay. I'll end the suspense. Yes, this applicant was admitted. So why? Why were they admitted? Well, their cumulative GPA was slightly low, and we do have a 3.0 minimum GPA required, but that can be cumulative, or faculty, if they feel that the applicant is strong enough, can decide to admit someone based on their upper division coursework. And they did quite well in that upper division coursework. They especially did well in their math and stats classes, which is really important for the EPI option. Importantly, they addressed why their grades were low in those first 2 years. So they gave the faculty some context to understand what was going on for them. And then they were able to pull their grades up. They very clearly articulated why they wanted an MPH epidemiology degree and why they specifically want to come work, do their coursework here at Oregon State. They did their research knowing about our faculty members. Also, the recommenders spoke about their grit and they have a desire to be an epidemiologist. So it's very clear this person has a specific goal in mind and knows that they want to come here, get the skills that they need to get to that career goal. So faculty believe that the applicant has the ability and the persistence needed to be successful in the program. They believe that our program is a fit for the applicant's career goals. They also noted that the applicant might need a little more mentoring from their faculty advisor. That's just an internal note. Sometimes faculty will do so that when it comes time to assign advisors before fall term, that faculty advisor will know the student might need a little bit more mentoring because they had that lower GPA. Are there any questions or comments about this first case study before I move on to the second one? You can put them in the chat, or I'm fine with you unmuting if you'd like. Okay.
Amanda, sorry, I have a quick question. I can't remember on one of the slides if the GRE was required. Would that have been another academic, if it's required or optional, is that something else you would look at for someone who might have a lower GPA average?
That is a great question. We no longer accept the GRE. So that was a decision made this fall. It's not a temporary decision. It's not based on COVID. It's based on, it was an equity decision. So for all of our graduate programs in the College of Public Health and Human Sciences, we no longer accept the GRE. Students can still submit it, but it won't show when the faculty review their applications. And I see a question from Julia. Do you look for volunteer and/or internship experience for applicants? If they do have volunteer or internship experience in the field of public health, that is helpful, but it's not weighted as high as their coursework, specifically coursework that's applicable to their MPH option. So EPI, health systems and policy, biostatistics are really wanting to see strong math and stats coursework, grades in those classes. And some of our other options are really looking for writing ability, and so higher grades in some of the writing intensive classes and things like that. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next case study. So this is an applicant to our MPH in Health Promotion and Health Behavior program. This applicant has a 3.1 GPA cumulative and a 2.75 in the last quarter, 90 quarter credit hours, so their upper division coursework. They are completing a Bachelor of Science in Biology. Their statement of purpose communicates a desire to become a medical doctor and provide one-on-one care with patients. They don't mention public health or population health in their statement. Two of the recommenders are faculty members, and they each wrote about a paragraph on the applicant's attendance in their class and the final grade in their course. The third recommender is a family friend who is a physician. So I would like to get your thoughts again. Do you think that this applicant was admitted? Lots of no's in the chat. Lots of no's in the chat. Yeah, okay. I don't think I need to keep going. No, this applicant was not admitted. So why were they not admitted? It seems like this is probably pretty clear to you all since you all said no. So their GPA is over 3.0, so they could have been admitted, but they didn't do as well in their last 2 years. And that's very concerning to the faculty. And maybe even more importantly, their goal is to become a medical doctor, and they really don't appear to be interested in pursuing a public health career. The two academic recommenders didn't talk about their academic strengths, and really they didn't seem to remember them in class because they talk about their attendance and their final grades, so they most likely looked that up from their records and didn't have much to say about the applicant themselves. The third recommender is the family friend who wouldn't be able to speak to their academic abilities. We really don't encourage family friend recommenders, family members, or friends to do a recommendation letter. So faculty denied this applicant because of marginal academic performance and a lack of interest in the field of public health. Any questions about that case study? Okay. So some tips for applicants when you're working with your students. It's just some things to keep in mind. Oh, did I miss a chat? Julia has a question. Do you usually accept students straight out of undergrad or have most taken time off and worked in the field? Great question. It is a mix. We do admit a lot of students who are going to be coming in straight from undergrad. We also have a fair amount who are non-traditional students and changing careers. They're maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and on up. And some people who've taken a gap year or two. So they graduated, they went and made sure that public health is what they want to do and come in. So when people ask, prospective students ask me about this, I say it's really up to you. I would highly encourage them to be positive that they want to get a master's degree in public health. If they're kind of wavering on that, I would say go out and work for a year or two. It's a lot of time and effort, and you want to be sure, but that it doesn't affect their, it really doesn't affect their ability, their being admitted. Okay, so tips for applicants. A student does not have to have a public health major to apply. Most disciplines do have crossover with public health, and so we get applicants from all sorts of different disciplines across the board. In fact, it's more common for them to be coming to us from outside of public health than to have them come in from, with a bachelor degree in public health. Applicants should know that public health is a population and prevention focused field, and it's not a clinical field. So this is not for to become a medical doctor, or sometimes we get applicants who seem to think that this is, they're going to be doing clinical work, and they won't be. Really encourage applicants to get to know our program through our web pages, faculty bios, and really ensure that this program is a good fit for their academic and career goals. And then they need to specifically outline in their statement of purpose why they want to attend our program. They need to link our program with their career goals, what they think they're going to get out of their time in our MPH program with what they want to do once they graduate. And maybe most importantly, contact staff like me, faculty, and current students. So this really helps them know, the applicants know, if the program is right for them. And very importantly, it gives the faculty an opportunity to get to know them. So when they go and review the application, they remember, this student is really interested. We had that great conversation. And I think that's really helpful for applicants. Our application requirements and process. So our faculty we do a holistic review process for every applicant. We look at every application material that they submit. 3 application deadlines. December 1 is our priority deadline, and that one's important if they want to apply for scholarships. Our scholarship deadline is in February, and they have to be admitted in order to apply for scholarships. We also have a March 1 deadline and a June 1 deadline. We only admit MPH students in fall term. We're on a quarter system, like I said, so that's late September every year. 3 letters of recommendation are required. They can submit up to 5 if they would like. And again, we really encourage the academic recommenders if they can. So if you're working with current students, that should not be an issue for them. Sometimes we'll have non-traditional students, especially in our online MPH program, who will say, I've been out of school for 20 years. I can't get academic recommenders, and that's understandable. But if they're currently students, we really recommend 3 are great, but at least 2. Again, we don't require the GRE. We don't have a cap in enrollment. So we are currently growing. When applicants apply, they are not competing for a set number of spots in the program. They're really competing against themselves. And COVID has not changed the application or the application review process for us at all. So just briefly, the materials that are required for our application. And this is all through SOPHIS. They apply through SOPHIS, which is kind of like the common app for schools and programs of public health. Official transcripts from every institution that they've attended, even if they've taken a course or 2 at a community college, we need that. Resume or CV, a personal statement or statement of purpose, 3 letters of recommendation, and again, no GRE. And these are the deadlines that I mentioned before. So finally, please feel free to pass on contact information. I'll put these in the chat I am always happy to meet with prospective students, and they can also, on our website, they can directly email MPH ambassadors, which are current MPH students. They can read their profiles, and then there's a link for each of them to directly email the students. I think that's super helpful for them to get a real sense of what it's like to be a current student in our program. And then also on our faculty directory, they can read the bios of all of our faculty members and also email them directly. And our faculty are great about connecting with current students, prospective students by email or meeting or phone. So I really encourage them to do that. So I'm gonna stop here and pass it over to Elizabeth and April. Thank you.
Great. Really quick, as we get April and Elizabeth up and running, we do have one Oregon resident question. Do you have a preference for Oregon residents?
Oh, thank
As a
you.
state institution.
There is not a preference for Oregon residents. No, I don't think that faculty look at that at all.
All right, thank you. And we will continue to monitor the chat because we are going to maybe have some time for some questions at the very end. So I'd like to introduce April and Elizabeth. It's your show. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I'll go ahead and start sharing my slides. Let's see. Okay, so first I wanted to go ahead and just introduce myself. Again, I'm April Sanders and I'm the Accreditation and Education Program Manager for the divisions of Public Health and Occupational Health at the University of Utah. And I oversee all of our educational programs. So we have about 8 different ones spanning between our 2 divisions, but we're going to primarily just focus on public health today on this session. So we have 4 different programs within public health at the university. And the first one that we have is the Master of Public Health. And we have community health and global health emphases within our MPH program, in addition to just the generalist track. And this allows students to really tailor their interests through electives or a specific set curriculum. And this is non-thesis based, so it's a practicum based as well. And they can, like, students can do this full-time or part-time, and it's a total of 45 credit hours. And it usually takes students about 5 semesters to complete their program if they are attending full-time. We do have about 5 dual degree programs as well that students can complete as an MPH student, and that ranges from public policy, Master of Healthcare Administration, Public Administration, Social Work, and Doctor of Medicine. We do have our Master of Public Health program at our Utah Asia campus that is based in South Korea. And a great option with this is that students can complete the program within 3 semesters. So it is a little bit more of an accelerated option for students if they are wanting to complete their MPH program within a year. They still have the more traditional route to complete a master's program within 2 years as well if they would like to. And it is more of global health focused, more practicum based. It's fully in English, so students do not need to know Korean to study in South Korea. And we are still fully running as well, sending students over there with COVID as well during this time. We have a Master of Science in Public Health, which again is the same time frame for our MPH students. The only difference is it's more research focused and it is more of a project based for students. A Master of Statistics and Biostatistics. This is about 34 credits for students who are really more interested in more statistics focused, math based, and this is project based as well. And lastly, our Doctor of Philosophy in Public Health. Students do need a master's degree for this. However, it is dissertation focused and it's 32 credit hours. So for our next slide, I wanted to just provide a little bit of our admissions review process first. So it is a 2-step process that we provide, and it is a partly blind admissions process. as well. So our education team, which consists of myself, Elizabeth, and one other academic advisor, we initially go through our SOFAS applications with students and review the students' GPA, their prerequisite courses, the GRE as needed, which is only needed for the MSPH program and the PhD, the TOEFL as needed just to meet the university requirements. And if the student contributes to diversity, if they demonstrates persistence, or if they addressed overcoming challenges in their personal statements or any other application materials that they provided to us. Once we go through that process, then we route the applications out to our faculty members with rubrics, and faculty review their resume and CV to really look at practice or research experience. Letters of recommendation, which the majority of letters need to come from faculty or previous individuals that can really describe the applicant's maturity for going into graduate school. The personal statement, so faculty are really looking at how the applicant, if they have previous experiences with public health, and or why they're interested in a public health career. In addition, through their written communication skills as well. And then additional criteria that we also look at is if they're able to contribute to a unique perspective, and if they are a fit for the Division of Public Health as well. So that's just a little bit of a brief insight to our full admissions review. So we don't necessarily just look at that quantitative perspective, but it is more of that holistic admissions process as well. I think I skipped this slide. Sorry, I skipped this slide.
Oh, that's okay. So I'm Elizabeth. I'll take this slide. I'm an academic advisor. So on this slide, we wanted to present the demographics for the incoming students that will be fully matriculated fall 2021. So these are the students that were admitted in the last application cycle. And these are students that have committed to come, which means they've submitted a form indicating they will come and they've paid their seat fee. The average GPA for these students was 3.35. Our minimum GPA is 3.0, so this is above our minimum GPA on average. We're expecting 54 MPH students, 2 MSPH students, 2 MSTAT students, and 5 PhD students. 18 of these students will be identified as a first-generation student, and 9 are international students. And then below, we have pulled what students have identified as their race or ethnicity on their admissions application. Students had an opportunity to identify multiple races or ethnicities, and so we've included that in the data provided here. We also had students that didn't disclose their race or ethnicity, so obviously we couldn't provide that here, but this gives you a good idea of what the incoming student body is going to look like in fall 2021.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And just to provide a little bit more on this too, I think that this is probably one of the most diverse incoming cohorts that we've seen as well. So we're pretty excited about this incoming fall semester too, just to have a little bit more of a diverse perspective to our students.
Yeah. Oh, and one other thing, sorry, that I missed was 87, based on the last admission cycle, we have an 87% acceptance rate.
So moving on to our first case study. So we've identified this case study as Jane Swoop. So our mascot at the U is Swoop. So we just decided to call this applicant just Swoop, so Jane Swoop. So this applicant essentially has a 2.84 GPA and has a BS in International Studies and has completed Calculus 1 and Applied Statistics. Calculus 1, the applicant had a B, and then applied statistics, the applicant had a C+. The letters of recommendation, the first letter described the applicant as reliable, intelligent, dedicated, a high caliber student, and the recommender communicated that they're confident that the applicant will graduate and contribute to scholarship. The second letter was from a supervisor from a research position and described the applicant as a strong candidate that will bring intellect to public health from the experiences of previous research and for their interest in the sciences and public health practice. And lastly, the third letter was from a professor that knew the applicant for 3 years and highly recommended for admissions. It described the applicant as a collaborative individual in the classroom and further described the applicant's engagement in the community setting through global scholarly work. The statement of purpose really discussed the interest in public health, saw firsthand the impacts of healthcare costs and the burden of healthcare on families that had limited access to healthcare in global rural areas. So the applicant discussed interest of applying to the U's Global Health Program and described their career outcomes and working with the World Health Organization. Additionally, in the application materials, they addressed obstacles that they faced during their undergraduate program, such as mental illness and having negative stigma for seeking out resources based on the cultural background the applicant was from. They were also a refugee student, a first-generation student, so they experienced major obstacles and was able to persist to complete their degree. So with that in the chat, what are individuals' thoughts about accepting this applicant? And I don't know if I can see the chat either. I don't know if I was having the same issue as Amanda earlier. Oh, yeah, I can see it. Got it.
Like everybody's saying yes.
Correct. Yeah. So we did accept this applicant. The admissions committee did want to accept to the Global Health Program. And the reason for this, I mean, our GPA, it is a 3.0 cutoff of University of Utah standards. However, we do have, room to make exceptions as needed. And for this individual, we felt that it was a very strong candidate, and we're definitely able to make that exception on the GPA standpoint. So they have accepted our offer, and they will be, they're currently like in our program as well. So we're glad that they are with us. And yeah, so that is that first case study. And any questions on this one before we move on to the second one? Okay.
Excellent. So for case study 2, we wanted to present an applicant that applied to our MS-PH student, and we will refer to this applicant as John Swoop, Jane Swoop's sister. So John Swoop had an undergraduate GPA of 3.24. Again, our minimum GPA is 3.0. So they've met this and gone beyond. They had scored an 85% on the quantitative portion of the GRE, and they had successfully completed advanced mathematics courses as an undergraduate. And we consider it successful if they've gotten a B and above in their quantitative courses. The letters of recommendation all came from faculty members who highly recommended this student and said the student would be very successful in a graduate program. Their statement of purpose was polished, and it described in detail, it identified research topics that they would want to pursue. And all of the materials demonstrated that the student has persevered through challenges throughout their undergraduate degree and would contribute to our commitment to diversity. So this student was a little bit unique in that they came to us with having already completed one semester of graduate coursework at another institution, and they were looking to start again at our institution. The first semester of coursework, they got a 3.5 GPA in that one semester. And that semester consisted of quantitative courses such as statistics, epidemiology, and genetics. So based off of this information, so a question that just came in is, so it was 3.5, not 1.5. So their undergraduate GPA was 3.24, and the first semester of their graduate coursework was 1.5. 1.5 was their GPA. So essentially it was D's and I think a couple F's. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but based off of this information, what would you guys think the recommendation was of the admissions committee? I'm seeing mostly no's so far, a couple yeses. Okay, great, excellent. Yes, so a few more yeses. Yeah, so this one was a kind of a tricky one. The faculty spent a lot of time reviewing and considering this application. What they ended up recommending was not to admit this student for the MSPH program, which has a curriculum that has a lot of quantitative courses in it, heavy and difficult quantitative courses. They instead decided to admit this student to the MPH program, with the opportunity to switch to the MSPH program after a semester if they were able to perform well in the quantitative courses. So so one of the items that contributed to this decision was that MSPH students, it's a research-focused degree. Again, the curriculum has a lot of quantitative courses, and they finish the entire degree with a research project. In the statement of purpose, this student identified that their research interests were inherited diseases and genetics. And we don't have faculty that have that specific specialty or are conducting research currently in those areas. So we didn't want to admit this student and have them be unsuccessful in finding a faculty member to work with. The faculty member also saw that this student could potentially be successful. Another item I didn't mention before was this student provided justification as to why they weren't successful that first semester of their graduate program. So considering that, the faculty member wanted to give this applicant an opportunity to prove that they could be successful. They showed that they were going to address the challenges they faced in their first semester of graduate school, and that those factors weren't going to be challenges in the future. So the faculty wanted to give the student opportunity. So instead of admitting the student to the MSPH program, they ultimately decided to admit the student to the MPH program, and then give the student an opportunity to switch over if they chose to in a semester or two.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And just lastly, just some additional guidance on applicants submitting to us. Really just to follow the application guidelines. We see a large majority of our applications at times just don't follow our guidelines, and that can really put a hindrance on application reviews for faculty, or transcripts that don't get sent in on time, which can delay the review of applications. We don't necessarily have a cap on admissions. However, we do have priority deadlines and also final deadlines. So this can delay students or applicants like timeline and hearing out about an admissions offer. Update your personal statement to the University of Utah as well. So we do use our SOFAS application, just like Amanda was mentioning as well. So just making sure that students are really just being detail oriented whenever they're submitting their applications to us, and really identifying why they're interested in public health. Again, making sure it's not geared towards that clinical focus, but really why they're interested in that public health degree, that practitioner degree, and also what their future career goals are. And then making sure that they're conducting research on faculty prior to the application submission if they are pursuing an MSPH degree. And we do have diverse academic backgrounds from our applicants, whether that's biology, chemistry. We've had students from writing backgrounds before, English backgrounds before. So we don't necessarily have a specific undergraduate degree that students need to have to apply to our programs. And then just really seek out guidance from our education team, from Elizabeth, myself, our other academic advisors. We're more than happy to meet with any potential applicant. And here's our email addresses, and yeah, we'll put those in the chat as well. So that's all that we had, Jenny.
Did anybody have any questions for us?
Great. Well, we'll have the awkward pausing as people kind of reflect on both the presentations. I really, really appreciate the variety that both of these schools represent, and is pretty typical for students that I have helped apply to public health programs of all sorts. What's really cool about public health is that there's a lot of different studies and specialties that applicants can apply to, and that's part of the fun of being an advisor, is to help a student find the program that has what they're looking for.
I have a question. In terms of experience, you mentioned a lot of students are coming straight in from undergrad, or potentially some of them are. Do you guys is there required practicums and required internships that they have to have in the program just so they can gain experience? And then the second part is a little bit about like just career outcomes. Is it easy to find a job? Is it, just the field of public health?
I can chime in. An internship is required for our program. So it's 6 credits. It's actually part of our curriculum, and that equates to 200 working hours. And it's competency based. And for jobs, it's really good right now, but it's always been very stable for our graduates. Over 90% of our graduates, we do a graduation survey and an alumni survey that's 1 year out. And it's always over 90% are working in the field of public health or have decided to go on and get a PhD, although most are working in the field.
Yeah, I would mimic that with what Amanda said as well. So we are CEEF accredited, so the Council on Education for Public Health. One of our metrics for career outcomes is we have to have a specific percentage of our students who at least have a job or are continuing getting furthering their education at least 1 year after they graduate. Right now, ours is about 92% of all of our students who are either employed or seeking education. The remainder of those 8%, they are just not necessarily continuing seeking employment just based off of their own, they just don't want to try and find a job right now for own personal reasons. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to answer on that. I couldn't remember the first part of your question though, Marie. I apologize if you wanted to repeat the.
Oh, just about required internships in the program.
Yeah, we require the practicum for the MPH program, but not for any of our other programs. So yeah.
Yeah, I will add to that. Sorry, April, did you want to keep going?
Oh no, I was just going to answer one of the questions that I saw of how students find internships. We don't necessarily place our students, so we don't have this program to place students. We do have a tracking sheet, and we provide guidance to students on how they can find practicum sites for students, like whether that's working in the community, going outside the state of Utah, and we help set them up with different organizations and give them a couple different options to reach out to based on their interests. But then it's up to them to facilitate those relationships with our community partners to establish those connections and start that practicum development.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that last thought you had was a lot of our community, a lot of the community organizations, they expect our students to reach out to them, and they're super supportive, and they've had a relationship with our students for many years. So while we do ask the student to kind of do the initial reach out, those organizations expect our students to reach out to them, and they usually have projects prepared for them. Additionally, I will say our alumni are enthusiastic and always actively engaged in the professional development of our current students. We have a lot of alumni, especially recent alum, that love to participate and help out.
And I'll just jump in and say that for internships, we have a full-time internship coordinator. So our students are also responsible for securing their internships, but they do have a lot of support through our internship coordinator and their faculty advisor. And we have several different tools for them to find internships. Our internship coordinator says that there's always far more opportunities than she has students to share those with. And our students go all over the world for internships. A lot of them will stay in the Pacific Northwest, but they do tend to scatter out of Corvallis because we're a smaller town.
Okay, we are at time, everyone. I want to thank April, Elizabeth, and Amanda for the time that you spent with all of us here today. We had great questions. You had great case studies. And for those of you who had some questions in the chat that you didn't get answered, or you have further follow-up questions, it was wonderful that our speakers have provided their email addresses. I'm hopeful that maybe you could shoot an email to any of them, and maybe they'll get back to you. I know that everybody is busy at this time. There's not a downtime for health professionals in our careers. So again, thank you so much for providing the case studies in our public health case study session. And thanks everyone for coming. We hope you had great takeaways. Round of applause for our participants and our speakers today. Thanks everyone for coming, and continue to go to these sessions. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.